Consider for a moment that everything you find difficult, every self-doubt, every dread, is more than just a challenge to conquer, but a road map guiding you to your actual goal. Consider it. What if the secret to knowing yourself and your intended course of action resides in the fundamental aspects of you that you have attempted to disregard, today, suppress, or deny? We'll examine one of the most revolutionary ideas in the field of psychology, Carl Jung's theory of the shadow in philosophy. This goes beyond theory and abstract concepts. It's about discovering deep truths that have the power to change your life. By the time this adventure is over, you will comprehend more than just your shadow, but moreover, find out how it contains the key to your mission, your freedom, and your potential. The last thing that will be revealed is maybe the most potent and transformative of all. The father of depth psychology was Carl Jung. Think that the shadow is our unconscious self that we deny or reject, and it has all the characteristics, aspirations, and facets of our personalities. Anything we deem intolerable or humiliating, but oddly, this shadow itself holds the seeds of our strongest qualities and the recipe for a happy existence. Consider it. How frequently do we refrain from thinking or acting in specific ways because they cause us to feel uneasy? How frequently do we pass judgment on other people for qualities we unconsciously acknowledge in ourselves? If you've ever been caught reacting forcefully to the conduct of others, it is likely that it is because a little of your own shadow has been touched by others. Once, Jung himself wrote, "Everything about other people that annoys us has the potential to help us comprehend ourselves." The shadow encompasses more than simply gloom. It has to do with potential and the energy we bury because we're embarrassed or too scared to confront it. Think about your own life for a moment. Do you have any aspects of yourself that you would like to hide from other people or even from oneself? Maybe it's a fear of failing, a lingering sense of jealousy, or a deep-seated rage. Perhaps it's a desire or a passion you've persuaded yourself that it's unrealistic or incorrect. What if these characteristics of you weren't defects to be removed, but messages that need to be deciphered? According to Carl Jung, facing our shadow, we are able to incorporate it into our awareness, resulting in what he referred to as individualization, process of wholeness. This is difficult and calls for bravery, sincerity, and an openness to trying new things. However, the benefits are incalculable. Jung defined individualization as the process of finding your true self. Individuation, not only the image you present to the outside world, but the whole, genuine self that encompasses both shade and brightness. He maintained that our biggest development occurs not by ignoring our shadow, but instead of accepting it. Think about this. Every mythological hero encounters a confrontational moment with their own shadows. Consider Hercules, the Greek hero, who faced more than just creatures from outside, but also his own anger and shortcomings. Star Wars' Luke Skywalker. He was forced to face his own darkness prior to becoming a true Jedi. These tales reflect the psychological paths we have taken. Would you be willing to take that initial step? Are you prepared to examine your own parts? You've been evading and requesting. What do you want me to learn? Jung's theory instructs us that there is no enemy in our shadow, but in our dreams, it whispers a direction to us, our anxieties, and even our interpersonal connections. Ever experienced a dream that kept coming back to you? Or had an unexplainable attraction to a specific concept or individual? They could be indications of your shadow making an effort to convey. Working with your shadow, a process, starts with awareness and paying attention to feelings and responses that seem out of proportion. For powerful, these frequently provide as hints about your personal traits that you've concealed. After recognizing these characteristics, acceptance is the next stage. This does not imply pursuing every whim or giving in to every craving. It entails accepting these aspects of yourself without passing judgment and being aware of their significance in your life. Just think of how freeing it would be To stop worrying about your shortcomings, but rather view them as instruments for development. Consider how much more genuine and assured that you could develop into by accepting who you are in your entirety. In the sections that follow, we'll explore in greater detail how you might recognize and incorporate your shadow. We'll reveal doable actions for turning what seems to be a transition from darkness to light, and investigate how this integration might help you find your mission in life. Always keep in mind that the most profound realization is yet to come. Stay with us because after this adventure is over, you will have a plan, not just to comprehend your shadow, but for utilizing it as a roadmap for your future. Let's carry on with this adventure into your innermost thoughts and feelings, and discover the amazing potential that is inside. Let's investigate further inside the shadow's enigmatic realm, and discover how recognizing this hidden side of yourself can reveal more than just your purpose, but also a deep sense of tranquility within. The shadow can take many different forms. It may show up in our routines, our interactions, particularly in our responses. Have you ever had an emotional breakdown and later questioned why you had such a strong reaction? That instant when feelings appear to take precedence over logic is frequently your shadow coming to light. However, what gives the shadow such control over us? Young people think it's because it's unconscious. The more we repress or deny a part of ourselves, the more power it acquires. In a way, holding a beach ball underwater is like that. It resurfaces more violently the more power you use. When you're unable to control it, now consider this. If you were able to reveal that hidden aspect and comprehend its beginnings, how much more authority over your life would you have? To what extent would you feel more free? Among the most striking illustrations of shadow work is the concept of projection. According to Jung, when we reject aspects of ourselves, people frequently exhibit those characteristics, intensifying our responses to them. For example, if you suffer from inferiority complexes, you could be critical of people who appear overconfident, or reject those who perform well. At places where you're uneasy, this is not merely a peculiarity of the mind. The world reflects back to us like a mirror the aspects of ourselves that we still don't recognize. This is how Jung described it. Being aware of your own darkness is the most effective technique for addressing other people's gloom. Think for a moment. Does anyone in your life set off a powerful, passionate reaction, possibly from a coworker, a relative, or even a friend, rather than concentrating on their actions? Consider what this response tells you about myself. What portion am I throwing onto them from my shadow? This has nothing to do with self-blame. It's about discovering oneself. Every projection is a chance to recover a part of who you are and raise it to the level of consciousness. Let's expand on this idea by investigating the connection between the shadow and our mission. Frequently, the aspects of ourselves that we repress are intimately related to our individual talents and interests. For instance, a person who stifles their creative because of a fear of failing may discover that accepting this repressed aspect brings them to the work of their lives. That purpose isn't something we discover on the outside. It's something we discover within ourselves. It's about being true to who we really are. This encompasses both the shadow and the light. The privilege of a lifetime, he said, is to develop into your true self. However, how do we start this alignment process? It begins with introspection. Ask yourself challenging questions. Your presumptions regarding your identity. What about myself do I fear the most? What I've been taught about myself is unacceptable. Which dreams or hobbies have I given up on because they believed they were unworthy or impracticable? Put these in writing and consider them. You may be shocked by what shows up when you give voice to your shadow. Journaling is another effective technique for shadow work. Jung himself maintained copious diaries, examining his unconscious psyche with them. He frequently urged his patients to record their dreams in writing, since the unconscious can be accessed directly through dreams. In your dreams, I cherish you, or even an occurrence Observe any recurrent themes or symbols, and ask yourself, what may my unconscious be attempting to say? Let's now examine the transformative potential of incorporating the shadow. Consider a painter who declines to employ dark hues in their artwork. Their paintings might be lovely, however, they are shallow and lack contrast. When we accept our shadow, we start to resemble artists who makes use of the entire color spectrum, light and dark, to produce a work of art. Not all dark impulses must be followed in order to achieve unification, or allowing the shadow to rule your existence. Rather than, it entails comprehending and embracing these elements. In keeping with your humanity, compassion is fostered by this acceptance, not just for you but also for other people. You start to realize that every individual has a shadow, because our common experience binds us on it. At a deep level, the process of accepting your shadow is a lifelong process rather than a single occurrence. It takes time, bravery, and a dedication to personal development. However, the benefits are enormous. You become more aware of your purpose, an increased level of inner tranquility, and the capacity to lead a genuine life. And this is a crucial realization. Your purpose extends beyond yourself. Young people think that our uniqueness adds to the collective unconscious, the collective reservoir of human experience. When you face your shadow and be in line with who you really are, you change more than simply your own life. You uplift and motivate people around you. The following section will examine the realistic procedures for integrating your shadow in day-to-day activities. We'll talk about how accepting this hidden aspect can result in more wholesome partnerships, increased originality, and a life that genuinely seems in line with your identity. The most profound truth has not yet been revealed. Remain with us as we unearth the most profound discovery of your shadow and how it contains the secret to your fate. As we continue to explore the depths of togetherness philosophies, let's concentrate on applying the knowledge gained from shadow work in daily life. Knowing your shadow is a strong first step. However, integration is the key to real transformation. This serves as the link between consciousness and action, where you start weaving your concealed qualities into your very essence. Among the initial steps in this procedure is engaging in radical self-honesty. This involves viewing oneself without any filters. Whatever justifications, it takes guts to say yes. Do I feel envious? I occasionally make unjust judgments about other people. The important thing is that self-honesty isn't about passing judgment, being conscious. It has to do with consciousness. Consider it similar to clearing up a messy space. You are unable to utilize or arrange the area until you first admit that the problem. Similarly, you are unable to merge your shadow until you become aware of its existence. A useful method to start this habit is via being aware of your emotional triggers. The next time a strong reaction strikes, whether it's fear or rage, or possibly too much adoration, take a moment to consider why I am responding in this manner. What does this circumstance tell us about me? Is there a piece of me that I'm projecting myself onto this individual or occasion? For instance, if someone begins to irritate you, who appears overconfident, think about whether this annoyance is caused from an insecure aspect of oneself, or perhaps you see a quality in their confidence you have repressed, your own ambition to become the center of attention. This self-examination process might be unsettling. It's tempting to back off at first, into defensiveness or blame. However, keep in mind that the objective is not self-criticism, is to comprehend oneself. Every trigger opens a gateway to a more profound understanding of oneself. After you've recognized some of your shadow's features, conversation is the next step. Jung frequently urged his clients to interact with their shadow as though it were an independent thing. This may seem strange. However, it's a method of externalizing and being aware of these hidden components. Picture yourself seated opposite your shadow and questioning it about why you feel this way. What are you attempting to keep me safe from? What do you require from me in order to feel appreciated? Journaling is one way to have this conversation. Visualization or meditation. Making a space is the aim, where your shadow appears. And listen to recall. Your adversary is not your shadow. It's something you've been attempting to, in its own imperfect manner, to safeguard or direct you. Many people have unexpected disclosures as a result of this approach. You might find that a worry you've had for years is real, originates from a childhood event, or a quality you've repressed, is truly a strength that is just waiting to be used. Let's now investigate how this integration affects the relationships you have. The shadow affects more than just your inner life. It influences how you relate to other people. Frequently, conflict is a manifestation of unresolved aspects of your shadow. Interpersonal conflict in interpersonal relationships. Have you ever encountered a circumstance where you fight with someone over and over the same matter, or maybe you've observed trends in your connections, similar to drawing in the same kind of partner, or dealing with comparable difficulties? Motivation for creativity. I cherish you. Young people think that relationships serve as reflections, reflecting back to us our unconscious. When someone triggers your emotions, it's frequently because they exhibit a quality or actions that speak to your own darkness. By understanding this dynamic, conflict can be turned into opportunity for progress, rather than holding someone accountable or harboring resentment. Consider this. What am I learning about myself from this situation? This change in viewpoint enhances your self-awareness but also cultivates empathy and comprehension. Let's expand on this concept. How can you be more creative by accepting your shadow? Regarding goal, Jung contended that the shadow is more than just a repository for bad qualities. Additionally, it is the source of unrealized potential. The energy you expend to keep your shadow at bay can be transformed into artistic endeavors. For instance, anger that is repressed could become a motivating factor for social change or advocacy. A covert need for attention could encourage the creation of art. While speaking in front of an audience, when you incorporate your shadow, you recover the energy you used to conceal it, enabling you to direct it toward activities that are consistent with who you really are. Consider a few of the best artists, historical authors, and leaders. Their art frequently conveys a profound interaction with their own shadows. For example, Frida Kahlo's paintings are brimming with unadulterated passion and unwavering candor regarding identity and suffering. Martin Luther King Jr. used his rage as fuel at unfairness, become a movement that changed the course of history. Youthful himself, believed that individuality could be attained through creativity. He thought that by doing creative things, either by creating art or even by addressing problems, we access certain unconscious portions. Think about your own life now, taking into account the shadow. Do you have any hobbies or projects in mind because they believed they were too exposed or dangerous? What if these were actually the manifestations of who you really are? Awaiting your appearance as you start incorporating your shadow, you'll observe a change. The characteristics and emotions that used to appear overwhelming or humiliating turn into sources of insight and strength. You'll discover that your life is more genuine. Assurance and intent in the following and last section will disclose your shadow's ultimate reality and how accepting it can result in significant change for the benefit of the world around you as well as yourself. Join us as we reveal the last, most significant realization that will unite everything and show the way to your greatest potential. As we reach the end of this adventure, we should pause to consider the importance of the discoveries we have made. The shadow, that aspect of ourselves that is concealed and frequently feared, is not a burden to endure. A present is only waiting to be opened. It contains the secret to our genuineness, our inventiveness, and, eventually, our goal. But what does it really mean to accept your shadow? And how this integration act can change not just your inner world, but how you approach life in general? To respond to these inquiries, first we have to face a reality that Jung, he underlined, that we cannot Completeness by denying aspects of who we are. Unity is the source of wholeness. From harmonizing every part of who we are. Jung famously stated that one does not use figures of light to become enlightened, however, by bringing the darkness to consciousness. This is what shadow work is all about. Recognizing the darkness rather than rejecting it. Possessing it and utilizing it to support your development. So, how can the darkness be made conscious? Vulnerability is one significant method. When you publicly express your anxieties, imperfections, and insecurities, you deprive them of their authority over you. Vulnerability does not equate to weakness. Its strength lies in its readiness to say, I am sufficient and this is who I am. Think about your relationships. How frequently do we use masks, showcasing just our individual parts? We believe others will agree. This behavior is understandable, but prevents us from having a genuine connection. By accepting your shadow, you allow yourself to fully present yourself, permitting others to observe and cherish you for your true self. This type of genuineness is captivating. It attracts individuals, builds trust, and cultivates a deeper connections. And it goes beyond interpersonal relationships. It's all about how you can change the world. When you incorporate your shadow, you cease fighting against yourself. This inner tranquility emanates, impacting your attitude to problems, chances, and even your mission. You develop into a person who functions from a state of completeness, instead of disintegration. Let's use this perspective to examine purpose. Many people live their entire lives seeking a feeling of purpose, thinking it's something that needs to be found outside. However, young people remind us that inner purpose comes from within, the inevitable result of being in harmony with who you really are. Consider it, shadow included. Your mission extends beyond your actions. It's your identity. It's the special blend of your abilities, passions, and even challenges that influence the way you give back to the world. An essential component of this equation is the shadow. It doesn't stand in the way of your goals. It is a guide, for instance. Someone who has battled emotions of inadequacy may discover their calling in serving others, acknowledge their own worth. Someone who has experienced frustration or rage could channel that enthusiasm into developing just systems. Or activism, your injuries might grow into your knowledge. Let's now discuss the most important realization of all. The youth think that incorporating the shadow doesn't only change the person, it has the capacity to change humanity. The reason being that when you face your own darkness, you grow more sympathetic, comprehensive, and sympathetic. You understand that you're not alone in the challenges you confront, but belong to the common human experience. Imagine a society in which more individuals accept their shadows, rather of expressing their anxieties and fears onto other people. They would take ownership of them, treat them, and learn from them. Conflicts would lessen comprehension and increase it, and people would become more unified. This is the real power of shadow work, illumination. It goes beyond simply bettering oneself. It's about helping to create a more aware, a world that is kind and interconnected. I give you a challenge as we come to an end. Examine yourself, not only at the aspects of yourself that you find admirable, but also in the areas you've concealed. What is my shadow attempting to teach me, you ask? How can I apply its teachings to live a more genuine life? What actions may I take today to start this integration process? Keep in mind that this is a continuous process. Although it's a lifetime journey, every action you take gets you one step closer to your true self, a person with depth, meaning, and completeness. I'd like you to offer your opinions as we close. Your thoughts and inquiries. What have you learned from this investigation into the shadow? What strikes a deep chord? Your observations could encourage someone else to take the beginning of their own path. This marks the start of a new chapter rather than its conclusion, one in which you accept yourself for who you are and confidently enter the life you were destined to lead. I appreciate you coming along on this trip with me. I hope you discover knowledge and bravery and tranquility as you keep delving deeper and deeper inside yourself. I appreciate you looking.